Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Do da dee dee da da da. Dee da dee dee. Welcome to Rainbows Are Circles, a podcast exploring human potential and everyday wonder. What possibilities open up for us when we explore life with optimism, curiosity, and an open mind? Join me, Julie Malari, as we wake up to wonder and speak with inspirational guests on the topics of personal development, alternative health, and even magical, mystical, yet often misunderstood practices. Are you ready? Greetings, friends! On today's episode, we're talking about the importance and power of play. Yes, you heard me, play. When was the last time you played a game or did something just because it sounded like fun? Or has it been such a long time since you've played that you're not even sure what you find fun anymore? In our busy, modern world, it can be hard to make time for the things that we enjoy. But what happens when life becomes all work and no play? Stress levels increase, happiness and health decrease, and we lose connection to the simple joys and pleasures that actually make life worth living. But not if Jeff Harry has something to say about it. He's dedicated his life to helping people connect with their inner child and rediscover their play. In this episode, we'll discuss the importance of having a play mindset and what it means to be in a state of flow. We'll learn tools to help you tap into your inner child and find more joy in your life. And we'll learn how following your curiosity can help you discover your passions. I'm excited to welcome public speaker, play coach, and play professional Jeff Harry to the show. Let's start just by hearing a little bit about yourself, your story, and how you became interested in this topic.
Sure. So I'll give you the short version. I saw the movie Big when I was a kid. Tom Hanks in the movie plays with toys for a living, so I started writing toy companies at like 10, being like, hire me. You could hire me. And I would just continue to write letters to them eventually until I got hired. And then, so I finally worked for a toy company at one point. I worked at Times Square Toys R Us underneath a T-Rex playing with toys for a living. This was in time. It was so weird. It was in Times Square doing this. And just kind of like manifesting because I was like, I want to change the world through toys. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And then I finally got in the toy industry, and it was just like, oh, they might as well have been selling chairs, or pillows. It was just like, I do not care about kids. They just want to make money. And then I had this whole quarter life crisis. I was in New York. Then I came to the Bay Area, to Oakland. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I guess I should just make money. And then I started, just doing stuff for money. And I was like, this sucks. And I remember there was like a moment when I was at Kaiser Permanente, and I was like probably doing an admin assistant job. And I felt confident because it was like good benefits and, $40K a year. And I was like, oh, all the things. And I remember my soul was just getting crushed every day. And then my sister came to visit, and I asked for some time off, or it's like, I'll work in the morning so, I can leave early or whatever it is. And they basically were like, nope, Jeff, no, we need you here. We need to get this paper from this side to this side. And there's no way in which we can move paper without you. So I quit. And I remember quitting right on the spot, like going up to them and being like, yes, actually, because they use that corporate speak where they're like, if your work doesn't improve, we're going to have to go another route. And I was like, well, then maybe you should go another route. And I just took my lanyard out and just handed it to him. Remember when I left, I had no idea what I was doing. And like, I was like unemployed for 3 months or something like that, reading all these, inspirational books like Bill Bryson and, swimming to Tony Robbins and, all that crap, all that stuff. I eventually came across a job on Craigslist where they were teaching kids engineering with Lego. And there was only 7 people at the job. It was really like small organization. And I met everyone, and everyone was such a nerd. And it reminded me of like the nerds that I used to hang out with in my basement. Because like when I was in high school, I had the choice to be cool, but cool seemed way too difficult. So I instead just created games in my basement, and the my nerdy friends would just come over and hang out. And then these were the same 2 types of nerds. So then I was just like all in with this organization. They were only paying like $150 a week. And I was just like, I'm just going to figure this out. And I worked with our boss and was like, what can we do in order to make real money doing this? And he was like, I don't know, just figure it out. Like, here are the numbers you have to make. All right, do it. We just started traveling to different cities around the country and just starting this organization. And that was 2004. And now it's, what are we, 2019? So 15 years later, it's 400 people,
Wow.
One of the largest like Lego inspired educational STEM organizations in the country. And then at some point I was asked to start helping grownups to play more through this. So I started doing that. So I developed this whole other curriculum that we just made up as we went along, right? Just played with it and just figured it out. Like, and then now it's like, at first it was just like Visa asked us, can you do it? And we were like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden we just did it. And then we just kept saying yes to stuff. So now I've developed this really cool corporate side of Playwell, and that's the organization Playwell. And then I felt like I needed to branch off and do another thing at the same time for me, because I found that positive psychology, play, and grown-ups have a massive amount of play deprivation. And they say the opposite of play is depression. So it's like this idea that like when you're not playing and we're talking not kids, we're talking adults, the less you are playing, the more likely you will fall into a certain type of depression. So I created an organization called Rediscover Your Play, because what I found is that I believe that adults, or just people in general, have all the answers that they need, and they simply need to tap back into that inner child, simply need to ask that 10-year-old self, what do I want to do? What did I used to do in order to like figure out all their answers? Like they already have all the answers. It's just like getting into a playful state to find that. And I think a lot of times we're beat down and told that we're not enough and that we shouldn't show up as our full self. And like that is what media, mainstream, social media, all of that is designed to do, so that you'll keep spending money. Having this play-oriented mindset is very similar to the travel-oriented mindset, where you're open to just saying yes and trying things out and being open to the adventure.
Yeah.
And like that's the life that we want to live. And what's typically happens is when you're on social media doing that scroll that makes you depressed, when you are watching TV and binge watching Netflix and then feeling crappy about yourself afterwards, it's all that stuff's designed to tell you you're not enough and that you need to consume more. When if you're just playing or allowing yourself to play, that's when you start to realize like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do in my life. This is what I want to do to bring me happiness. Like those ideas pop up.
Yeah.
So I want to help people like tap back into that.
Okay.
Because the answers are already there. You just need to tap in order to get them.
Okay. So first of all, how do you define play? I know that's a really basic question.
No. It's a great question. I define play as anything you're doing that puts you into flow, brings you joy, is not results oriented. So you're doing it for the
fun of it.
sake of it. Like there's no like I'm gonna play so I can, like, no one goes to the playground and goes, I won playground, you know. Win playground, you know. But what you can do at a playground is you can go have fun at a playground, and there might be games where you can win and everything like that. But like how I define it is like play is getting into that state of flow and joy as you're striving to like reach your full potential. Like that's how I describe it. So it can be anything, you know, that falls underneath that.
Okay. So play, well, first of all, I do win at the playground. I'm just saying, but for everyone's play is going to be different. Because
Absolutely.
everybody's different. We all enjoy different things.
Right.
Okay. So what about people who, like, they haven't played in so long that they don't even know what they enjoy anymore? How do they tap into their play?
There's a few ways you could do it. You could think about what you like to do when you're a 10.
Mm.
You know, you can think about what you did when you were 10 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I liked to create like stage sets, and we would act out stuff. And you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, what is some way in which you can do something like that now? You know, like I like to create, well, you like creating these stages and these of, you know, well, do you like creating events? Do you like creating like parties? Do you like getting people together? Like, what is it that you used to do when you were a kid that ties into something that you either do now or something that you want to do now? You know, and they found Peter Gray has, he's like this professor of play, actually, has done a lot of studies that's found that there's a correlation with what you did when you were 10 to what you're either currently doing now or what you should be doing now. So that's one way. The second way, if you're like, well, I haven't played in a while, is like getting all your friends together. I call this almost like the play storm. You get all your friends together, you have drinks or whatever it is that loosens you up, you know, and you ask them, when was the last time you saw me really happy and really having fun and stating like, I feel like I need to play more, but I don't even know how. And then asking them, when have you seen that? And then you just have this play storm of ideas from all your friends of what you could possibly do. And then as a group, you commit to doing one of those things. Like, I used to love going on adventures and getting lost. Okay, we should travel as a group over a weekend, some random city, and do that, you know? And then while you're playing like that, then the next cool play idea will come about. Because I think people are so results-oriented, especially as adults, like everything's about results. But the idea of just getting in a play flow state will provide you the answer to the next thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of my teachers calls it like following the magical breadcrumbs.
Right, exactly. Right.
Okay.
And it's interesting because a lot of times we want to do everything in a linear way. Like, if I do this, I get this. But if you look back at your life, nothing's been linear. It's all been all over the place.
Right.
So I don't know why we try to plan this way, because that actually, if we played more, we would actually be able to enjoy this more. But instead, we're like, well, it's not this way, so I don't like it. And you're like, you know what this is? Boring. Freaking boring. You know? Like, why do you want to have that life?
Right.
Boring life.
Right. You know, Elizabeth Gilbert, okay. So she used to, I watched a talk by her recently, and she used to be like a big proponent of following your passion. And until she realized that actually not everybody knows what their passion is.
Right.
And so she switched up that conversation to, instead of following your passion, follow your curiosity and let that guide you.
Exactly.
And that guides you to the next thing and the next thing. Yes. And you're right, it's not linear. It's just like, it's letting your life be like a playground. You're exploring, you're having fun, you're figuring things out. You're seeing what makes you happy. You're seeing what you don't like to do. And you're just moving in that way. It's not linear.
Yes. And what's cool about her book and Big Magic, she brought up that she was, I think it was one of her friends was like, I always wanted to do ice skating. Like I always wanted to do that. Become like a figure skater. And she's like, well, now I'm in my 40s, so I don't think I can figure skate. And Elizabeth was like, well, why not? Just try it. And she's like, because we have this fixation that she wanted to figure skate so she could get to the Olympics and do all these things. And it was like, no, just do it because it seems fun and you feel like compelled to do it. So she starts learning how to do it at 40. By doing that, that happiness brought up other things, right? It brought up other things that had nothing to do with her career, but made her happy or put her in such a flow state that other benefits happened as well. Yeah. And I remember this, there's a guy I met at WDS named Dave Buck, and he was just like, one year he was like, I want to be a professional soccer player. And he was like 33 years old. And it was like, dude, you're past your prime. Like, there's no way. That's what people were saying to him. And he goes, no, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to still figure it out. So for 2 years in a row in the summer, he would go to Bolivia and he would play with 18 and 17-year-old Bolivian kids, and they would kick his ass all the time. They'd run through the beach because, you know, he trained with them, and he was called Gringo Grande. Like, that was his, like, nickname, and they would just make a fool out of him every day when they were playing. Anyway, he did that, and then he came back and started playing with his, like, regular rec team, and he was so much better than the people he used to hang out with and play, because he knew he wasn't going to get better by just staying in the box. So he like went to this other extreme, and he was playing so well, he got picked up by a semi-professional soccer team. What? Like oldest person on the field. And they're like, who are you? So it's just like, you know, it's like, again, following that curiosity, that little urge in the back of your head.
Right.
Find that through either meditation or messing around, like playing around, or go travel and you'll figure it out. And then following that little voice that's like, what if we did this? And then following that path.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like everybody has that little voice that speaks up, and sometimes it's really quiet. But what would you say to somebody that was having a lot of trouble, like trusting or following that inner voice because of fear or whatever?
I would say, well, how's life going right now? How's it working out? An amazing person that I love named Marsha Shandor. She runs this website called Yes, Yes, Marsha, where she like works with people about speaking. She was speaking yesterday. She was the closing speaker at WDS, and she talked about the beast voice, that the mean voice, the lizard brain, the one that's just like, you suck. Yeah. You're not enough. You're never going to accomplish anything. You shouldn't even get out of bed in the morning. And she was like, why do we spend so much time thinking that voice is the voice to listen to and not enough time thinking of the other one? Mm-hmm. And this other person, Patricia Moreno, once described it as, you have like, I don't know if she was like 10 to 20,000 thoughts a day, and they're all on this conveyor belt, and you just pick up whichever ones you want. So why are we picking up all the crappy ones? You know, like, it's your choice. And which one, and why do you consider some to be true and others not to be true? You know, if you were to actually write down all the bad things that you say to yourself, not only would you be like, wow, this is the worst friend ever, but after a while, if you write them down, what did Marsha say? It's almost like it's a reoccurring, boring playlist of bullshit stuff. You know, you have your 3 songs of like, you're not enough, you're a failure, and you could be really amazing, but you spend way too much time watching Netflix. You know, like you have these like continues, but that once you notice that playlist, then you can be like, I can turn that playlist off, or I can turn it down. It won't go all the way, but I can turn it down. Mm-hmm. And then that means I can actually turn up the one that's like, do this, you could do something, take a risk. What could happen? Oh my gosh. And if you think about it, your life moments that you most remember, the life like fulfilling moments, The life-altering moments are when you took those risks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you had no idea what was next. And you were like, I'm just going to try this.
Yeah.
And that's a super exciting way to live life, where you're like, my life could change or dramatically change in a moment if I'm willing to show up fully and take that risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah. Instead of the other thing of like, got a case of the Mondays, hump Wednesday, and you're like, can't wait till Friday. Like, what kind of horrible life is that? It just sounds so boring. Can't wait till retirement. Oh, now I'm in retirement. What am I going to do now? I guess I'll just go and die. Like, it's like, come on, man. Like this, you got one freaking life. Like, let's make every day exciting. Do one thing that excites and scares you. And imagine having that each day. Like, like, okay, I'm sorry. I just got to say this last thing. Is so when I went up on stage in front of those 1,000 people and did my attendee story, and I was so freaking scared. And I've spoken to people, large groups before, but there was something about telling my personal story and also saying, like, you have 2 minutes to tell something that could possibly change someone's life. What do you want to say in 2 minutes? It's like, oh, I don't know.
No pressure.
2 minutes. Well, so I went up there, but I was up there also with a friend of mine, Sarah Todd, who is not as comfortable as me in front of a camera, not as comfortable speaking. She doesn't speak at all. And that was like one of her first times ever being in front of any crowd of any size. And afterwards, when she got off and we're walking and we're talking about how like it was an out-of-body experience and you almost like you channeled the story, you didn't even know you were there, and then all of a sudden it was done. She was just like, I think that just changed my life. And It's like, oh, those are the freaking moments, man. Those are the life, like, fulfilling moments. And it's like, I want more of those. And that's where the play lives. That's why you play.
Right.
You live a more fulfilling, remarkable, powerful life.
Right. So how would somebody even... Let's say you know that you need to make a change. You're in a job that sucks. You hate it. You hate going to work every day. Like, where do you even begin?
I think there's a few ways you could begin. I think the first way is like, what sparks joy for me? And exploring that. Getting really quiet. I think a lot of times we're so busy filling our heads with stuff that a lot of people aren't bored anymore. You're never bored. And boredom is actually, in positive psychology, is actually really beneficial, because when you're bored, that's when you start to come up with ideas, right? That's why part of like meditation, of like when you meditate, you're spending time like really being able to like slow down time and recognizing your thoughts. But if you're binge watching Netflix all the time, which I've also done, you also then can't hear that voice. So you got to it's ironic, but you got to get bored and figure out what sparks joy for you. Then the next thing is like bringing your friends together. If you're trying to figure out, well, what do I want to do with my life, or what could I do that would bring value? And I love this question. I recently did this. This actually helped me start my website and come up with the name of my organization. Was I would go up to my friends and family and I would be like, what value do I bring to your life? And then just taking it in and asking a lot of different people, and you'll start to see certain themes. And those are the themes that you want to like potentially explore, So a lot of people would say to me, they would be like, well, there's something about how you help people rediscover something about themselves they didn't know. Or you help people tap back into like the kid that they used to be, because you're like a kid, and then you like almost like I'm like a kid whisperer. Like I can like see the kid. I can see the kid in the adult. And then we'll just, so like perfect example, the other day, a friend of ours is starting a website, about jewelry called Crowned. And we were joking around over dinner and we were like, we'll make some hilarious commercials for you. And she's like, yeah, do it. And then we freaking did it that night.
What?
So we found someone that was like randomly, this is the serendipitous of this conference, randomly she used to direct films, and she just took out an iPad and we filmed 3 ridiculous commercials, horrible ones, like an infomercial commercial, one that was like a Matthew McConaughey black and white, like where you like say bodacious, lavender, luxurious, and we're like, these are grown adults. We're fucking grown adults out here. Just both playing and also being super serious at the same time, which was really fun, and just creating like really cool, fun content. It was just like, we're just messing around. Yeah, it's the whole idea of like asking your friends, what value do I bring to your life, right?
Okay.
And then also then exploring what sparks joy for you, and you might have to get into a boredom state in order to like realize that. And then gathering your friends or doing this yourself, where you're just starting to do things that are playful and ridiculous, even if you don't know if that is the goal. Because I think what we want to do is like, I want to leave a job that I hate. So then you think, I need to figure out the next thing right now. And you don't. You just simply need to be curious and be willing to follow a new path. And eventually you'll get there, right? Mm-hmm. Like when I left the job, when I thought I was in the toy industry, and then I was there and it sucked and I didn't know what was next. Like I didn't wait to figure out what was next. I just started following my curious path. And the more you follow that, the more likely you'll rediscover the next thing. And a lot of times you already know the answer because you know it from your childhood. Like it's been telling you. You just have to be willing to quiet your mind enough to hear the voice, and also be willing to play and try out different things, right? Because like you're like, well, I don't know how to play. Well, try whatever the next thing that comes up for you. Well, I'll do improv. Okay, I don't like improv. Well, okay, I'll do skiing. Okay, I don't like that. Like just keep messing around with stuff until something resonates for you, And it might not even be like actual play. It might be something that you would never even consider play. Like, I don't know, I like to get lost and wander around the city. Like whatever it is, whatever floats your boat, however strange, this idea of just doing you, just owning you. Mm-hmm. Do you, boo-boo, like that's what, just do you, boo-boo.
Yeah, and you can do this without making a super dramatic change right away and quitting your job. You can still explore while you're still in that same job, so you don't, not have any money coming in.
Right. And you could even then look at your job in a different way, because you're like, ooh, I'm staying at this job that I don't really enjoy that much, but it's financing my exploratory process to find the next thing. Mm-hmm. So like when I'm done for the day, I'm super excited to do this, because like what a lot of those digital nomads would do. Oh, this was super interesting. I met these people from Remote Year. Have you ever heard of Remote Year? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a Remote Year where they travel to 12 different cities and they stay in that city for 1 month, and they travel as a group, and they all work out of a co-working spot. And it's called, and you still work your regular job, but you do it while you travel. Oh. So there are people that are like working from Google or Facebook, and others that are entrepreneurs. I met someone that was an event director, and they found that their work was so much more productive while they were traveling. Ironically enough, because they were happier, because they were like, well, I got to get this work done so I can go ride an elephant, or I can go to the beach afterwards. And some of them got promotions while they were on Remote Year. Wow. So the idea of like, there's play involved.
Yeah.
You just need to be able to explore and figure it out.
Yeah. Find different ways. There's not just one way to do it.
Just not one way to do it. And you don't need to do it in this overly dramatic way, but you need to know that you don't have all the time in the world. And it's just like, is Netflix or Facebook or Instagram feeding you? Like, is it really motivating you? Because if it's not, why not try something else?
Yeah. So Jeff, you do like one-on-one consultations with people, as well as workshops with companies, and I guess team building workshops.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of the stuff around the team building is like, well, it's more the idea of like when companies talk about like creativity and innovation and all the buzzwords, right? That's all play. That's all you should be asking your company is just like, are you playing enough? Because they say like, I think it was Steve Johnson's quote, the future is where people are having the most fun. And it's just like, if your company's not having fun, if your company is like stagnant, you're going to be done. You know, like that's just the reality of it. We're looking from like a cost benefit analysis. So how is your team playing and how is your team playing together? So like that's something that's super interesting to do when I run these play workshops, because then not only do people connect on a deeper level because they can see each other's like inner child, right? And be like, oh, that's how you really are. I didn't know this about you, even though we've been even though we've been working for years. Like there's the I forgot, maybe the Plato quote or whatever it is, like an hour of play is worth a year's worth of conversation. You know, like there's value in that. And I think a lot of times it's diminished. So figuring out how to infuse more play into how people are working is one way that I provide value to an organization. And then the play coaching is more the thing of like tapping back into like the answers that you already have. And then seeing, not even like we're literally playing during the coaching process, where it's just like, we're going to look at the world through a play-oriented mindset. And when we look at it that way, what comes up for you, you know, and how can your life be so much more valuable and more fulfilling to you if you're willing to show up in this more curious way, growth mindset sort of way.
Okay. And how, when you're playing like within a company, how does play, I guess, spark more innovation and creativity?
So when you're playing, well, think of a brainstorming exercise, right? Mm-hmm. If you're brainstorming and people are coming up with ideas and they're like, oh, that's a good idea. And let's add this idea and let's add this idea. And there's like momentum around it. Mm-hmm. And then someone's like, I think those ideas suck. You know, like the play thing, just like, oh, and then it just goes down, right? It's just like, you know, and the whole point of play is like, there's a lot of trust involved. There's a lot of like, let's try this and let's explore this. Like, they were trying to figure out this like new stent or something for some patent. She's in this office and in her meeting with all these male engineers. Uh-huh. And they're trying to figure out like this new like stent, you know, or something, you know, to address like the aortic valve. She was just like, yeah, we should use something like a scrunchie. And all the dudes were like, what's a scrunchie? And then she literally had to pull it out and show them. And then they just started playing with the idea, you know, and a lot of times with innovation, it's not linear, right? It's like here. And it's this idea of allowing the path and the flow and be like, well, we're going over here. I don't understand why we're here. This makes no sense. And then all of a sudden it all clicks, right? Like you have to allow for that. And for that innovation to happen, you have to have trust and you have to build that, you know, you have to be willing to take risks. And that is the play-oriented mindset right there. Of like being willing to just play and trust the universe that it's going to work out. Right.
I love that. It's just being open to exploring and just trying things and knowing like, even if something doesn't pan out the way you thought it would, it might lead you to this, which might lead you to this and that. Yeah. And everything sort of eventually sort of clicks.
Yeah. And when you think of companies that are not innovating, you know, like the blockbusters, like, you know, like that place could have easily done what Netflix did. They had everything they could, and they were not willing to try something new or mess around or play with this. They could have created an arm and just messed around with it. Maybe it works or maybe it doesn't. But instead they were like, that's dumb. People are always going to drive, you know, and pick up a DVD or a VHS from Blockbuster. Like just that lack of being open to new possibilities and having that play-oriented mindset basically destroyed their whole organization.
Right. This has been so great. Just one more question before we finish up here. What do you think like the purpose of living is?
I guess I'll answer it this way. I love this quote by Howard Thurman. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is for more people to come alive. And that, I think the purpose of life is to figure out what makes you come alive. Because as you do that, it makes other people come alive. And it makes other people come alive. And what are we doing on here anyway? If part of the goal of life isn't to just have a fulfilling, amazing, powerful life. What is it? 1 in 140 trillion chances that you were supposed to be born? Come on. And how do you want to show up in the 80 to 100 years if you're lucky enough to even live that long? How do you want to show up? How do you want to have, how do you want, if you knew it was your last day on earth, how would you want to show up? Because that's how you should show up, or at least be willing to take one risk to show up. Because I remember talking to a friend of mine who, just went through cancer, and she's at a meeting, and they're like, we got to get this deadline. It's so important about this deadline. This is going to crush the organization. We don't, almost to the point that they were talking about death. And she's like, I've gone through death. This doesn't matter. Most of this stuff doesn't matter. So it's just spend the time in your life figuring out what matters, and then and what feels good, and just do that. It's just simple as that, which is kind of crazy. Right. It was funny. I was at a winery once, and I was like, I'm not very good at wine. I don't know wine. And they were like, if you sip it and you like it, you should drink more of it. That's the same thing. Same freaking thing with everything else. Oh, I like that. I'm going to do more of that. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to do less of that.
That's so
it.
good.
That's it.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated.
It has to be complicated. So it's what makes you come alive? I don't know. Well, when I do this, I feel a little better. Well, then follow that,
Yeah.
And I think we make it really complicated. I want to make this massive impact on the world. I want to change lives. And it's the Gandhi quote is pretty powerful in the sense of the being is enough. And the reason why I say that is yesterday I saw a person speak. She was 21 years old. Her name was Nadia. I forget what her last name was. She started something called the period movement because she realized people were not addressing menstruation and just everything around it. It's so barbaric from the 50s. And she's this 21-year-old that's this is ridiculous. Why is no one talking about this? So she started a nonprofit at 16. Been doing that nonprofit. By 18, she ran for city council in Cambridge while going to Harvard. And then after that, now she runs a marketing organization where she works with corporate Fortune 500 companies on how to talk to young people. By 21, she's already done all these things. And my friend Yvonne said, her presence, her just being her is a call to action for everybody else, that you have the time to do stuff and that there's no excuse for you well, I don't know how to do it. She was 16. She Googled how to run for city council. She Googled how to start a nonprofit. It's all there. We have everything that we need. Just start, as this other speaker said. Just start something.
Right.
And then just flow from there and just trust that something good is going to come out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I forget where I hear this, but, or I heard this, but at this in this day and age, like ignorance is a choice. Like we have everything we could ever want to know at our fingertips if you have access to a computer and an internet connection. So it's like, if something interests you, just try it out, read about it, take a class. Like and then if you decide like, hey, it's not for you, well, maybe you'll find something else along the way, or maybe you'll follow a different curiosity. But it's like, just spend the time exploring whatever catches your interest.
Exactly.
And just trust that will keep leading you to the next thing and the next thing.
Yes.
And at least the ride, the journey will be enjoyable because you took the time to explore the things that lit you up and that gave you life and excitement.
Yes. And I feel like, especially in America, we have created this idea that we're in this race. Like you and I are competing, which makes no sense because, like, how do you win the race? Like,
how do you win the playground?
Who wins? Yeah, how do you win the playground? And also, if it's a race, are you going where I'm going? Because I thought we're going in different directions. Like, we have totally different goals. And I'm writing an article now called F the Race, just identifying that when you start something new, you don't have to be like, oh, well, I'm thinking about becoming a figure skater, so now I have to do it so I can become an Olympian, or I'm like, I want to cook, so now I have to be on Top Chef. Like, you don't have, like, that doesn't have to be the path. Even you could just be doing it for enjoyment's sake, and then just seeing where that leads you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's like we've been beaten down that it's all about results, but it really is about the process and just enjoying the moments of the process. Like that's the wonder. It's in the small, remarkable things where, like, that's where life is worth living. It's right there,
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you think of like your most life affirming moments, the ones that you just were fully present, you were not Instagramming, you were like not taking photos, you were not thinking about the past or the future. You were simply like in a play oriented moment, and you were just like, I'm fully here.
Yeah.
And like, you can have that anytime you want. You just need to practice.
Yeah. So Jeff, if people wanted to work with you or learn more about you and what you're up to, how can we find you and connect with you?
So it's very simple. You simply go to rediscoveryourplay.com. And there I actually have tips on how you can play more as well. You can actually download that. And you can also hit me up at jeff@rediscoveryourplay.com. And I guess I feel like there's something last that I want to like leave people with is, I guess it's the message that I told a bunch of high school kids. Everyone's making it up as they go along. No one's an expert at any of this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And once we realize that we're enough, because everyone else is telling us we're not enough, but once we realize we're enough, that's when like shifts start to happen. So just like know you have all that you need. You don't need to hire anyone. You don't need to hire me. You have what you need. I mean, if you want to, I can help you. But it's just like you have it. So trust that and trust your instincts, because that is where the fulfilling, life-affirming route is. Yeah. So I just want you to take that risk.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And, I spoke with an astrologer earlier today, and what you just said reminded me of something that she said. And it's just really about like honoring your uniqueness and honoring what makes you happy, what makes you unique, what makes you special, and not comparing those things to what other people's are, but just honor and accepting yourself and your own, and you'll live just such a more purposeful and fulfilling and happy life because of that. So, yeah.
Yes. I heard this where yesterday someone was saying how the weird in you is where the superpowers are. That's where you're.
That is so good. So, find your weird.
Find your weird. Find your weird.
Honor your weird.
That's where your superpowers are.
Yeah.
And we all have superpowers, so.
That's awesome. I think we should end on that. Jeff, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, and it's really cool to see what work you're up to now and the way that you're helping people to just find more joy and play in their lives. And really, really honored that you came on and spoke to our audience about this.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, you too.
All right, go play. I'll talk to you later. See ya.
Bye, Jeff.
See ya.
Boop, 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 boo. If you enjoyed this episode and would like Jeff to help you find more playtime, you can contact him at jeff@rediscoveryourplay.com. He's offering a free 20-minute consultation so you can find out if his services are just what you need. You can also visit his website, rediscoveryourplay.com, to check out his blog, read his articles, find out where he's speaking next, or see a fantastically nerdy childhood photo of him. That alone makes it worth a visit. Needless to say, Jeff is an amazing human being with a lot of playful wisdom to share. It was a joy speaking with him, and Jeff, I'm really grateful that you came on the show to play with us today. Now get out there, everyone. Make some time for playtime and find your weird. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's show. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast so you can get these episodes downloaded as soon as they're available, please hit the subscribe button. You can also leave a rating and review for the podcast, which helps to grow the show and reach even more listeners. An additional way you can support Rainbows Are Circles is by donating $1 a month to the podcast. Every single dollar counts and ensures that Rainbows Are Circles stays alive and kicking. Just visit my Patreon page at patreon.com/rainbowsarecircles. As a patron, you'll have access to exclusive content at least once a month. For this month, I'll be creating a guided relaxation audio recording to help you unwind at the end of a long day and promote restful sleep. If you'd like to learn more about the show, please check out my website, rainbowsarecircles.com, or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under the name Rainbows Are Circles. I truly appreciate all of your support, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Until then, have a magical day. Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Wow, 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 wow. Rainbows are circles.